I was a successful software engineer in Seattle with what I thought was a perfect 5-year marriage to Jessica. Growing up, I always admired my younger brother Daniel, despite his charismatic but irresponsible nature. Nothing prepared me for the day. I walked in and discovered Jessica and Daniel together in our bed. The betrayal cut deep, but even that paled compared to my parents asking me to be the best man at their wedding. Little did they know, karma was waiting just around the corner. Before I dive into how my world collapsed and karma eventually restored balance, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like button if family betrayal stories resonate with you. Growing up in Portland, my childhood was defined by stark contrasts. My father worked as a renowned surgeon, while my mother held a prestigious position as a university professor. Despite our comfortable lifestyle, there was always an unspoken hierarchy in our family. Daniel, my younger brother, by 3 years, somehow managed to capture all the attention and affection with minimal effort. While I studied diligently, maintained perfect grades, and followed every rule, Daniel charmed his way through life. His misdeeds were dismissed as boys being boys, while my achievements were simply expected. When I earned a scholarship to a top engineering school, my parents merely nodded in approval. When Daniel barely graduated high school, they threw him a lavish party. College became my sanctuary. I poured myself into computer science, graduating with honors, and landing a position at one of the largest tech companies in Seattle. For the first time, my hard work received genuine recognition from peers who valued merit over charisma. I built a reputation as a problem solver and quickly climbed the corporate ladder. It was during a technology conference in San Francisco that I met Jessica. She worked for a partner company, and we bonded over our shared love for innovation and outdated science fiction movies. Her intelligence was matched only by her warmth, with auburn hair and an infectious laugh that could light up any room. After a year of dating long distance, she transferred to Seattle and I proposed 6 months later. Our wedding day remains one of my happiest memories even now. We chose a small venue overlooking Puget Sound, inviting only close friends and family. Daniel served as my best man, delivering a speech that actually seemed heartfelt. He hugged me tightly afterward and whispered, "You got a good one, bro. Never let her go." The irony of those words still burns. The first 3 years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. Jessica and I moved in sync, building our life together piece by piece. We saved diligently and purchased our dream house in a quiet Seattle suburb, complete with a view of Mount Rainier on clear days. We painted rooms together, planted a garden, and discussed having children once we felt established enough in our careers. Jessica advanced to marketing director at her company, while I received 2 promotions. We hosted dinner parties for colleagues and weekend barbecues for neighbors. From the outside, we were the perfect couple living the American dream. Daniel visited occasionally, always bringing expensive wine he could not afford, and stories about his latest entrepreneurial venture that never seemed to materialize. Looking back, the warning signs were there by our 4th anniversary. Jessica began staying later at the office. Her texts became less frequent, and she grew protective of her phone. I attributed her distance to work stress and gave her space. When she mentioned wanting to redecorate parts of the house, I encouraged her passion project, never questioning why Daniel suddenly appeared more weekends to help while I worked overtime on a major product launch. My ignorance shattered on a Tuesday afternoon. I had returned early from a business trip to Portland after our final presentation was rescheduled. Wanting to surprise Jessica, I picked up flowers and her favorite takeout. The surprise was entirely mine when I unlocked our front door and heard unmistakable sounds from our bedroom upstairs. Time seemed to slow as I climbed each stair, my body moving on autopilot while my mind screamed in denial. The door was partially open, and through the gap, I saw them together in our bed, the bed we had saved for and selected together. The flowers fell from my hand as the door swung wide. Alan Jessica gasped, eyes wide with shock rather than shame. Daniel did not even attempt to cover himself, meeting my gaze with an expression bordering on defiance. "How long?" The words felt like glass in my throat. Jessica pulled the sheet around herself, while Daniel remained unmoved. "It just happened." She began the obvious lie hanging between us. "Try 6 months," Daniel interjected with a casual tone that suggested he was discussing the weather rather than destroying his brother's marriage. Jessica shot him a look before turning back to me. I was going to tell you, Alan. I just needed time to figure things out. Her voice softened in that manipulative way I now recognize as her negotiation tactic. The truth is, I have fallen in love with Daniel. We never meant for this to happen. Daniel finally stood pulling on his jeans with unhurried movements. Look, bro, sometimes these things just happen. Chemistry, you cannot fight it. The surreal conversation continued as I stood frozen in our doorway. They spoke of their feelings, their connection, how they had tried to fight it. Not once did either of them say sorry. When they finished their practiced explanation, they waited for my response, as if expecting understanding, perhaps even blessing. I turned without a word and walked out of my own home. The small apartment I rented downtown became my sanctuary and prison. Bare walls and minimal furniture mirrored my emotional state as I mechanically filed for divorce and divided our assets through lawyers. Jessica moved in with Daniel, immediately not even maintaining the pretense of separate residences during the proceedings. Depression engulfed me like a heavy fog. I functioned at work, but colleagues noticed my decline. My team lead Ryan covered for me during meetings when I zoned out or snapped at simple questions. I lost 15 pounds, my clothes hanging loosely as I subsisted on delivery food and little sleep. Yet even in those darkest moments, something within me refused to completely surrender. Small acts of self-preservation emerged, joining a 24-hour gym to exhaust myself into dreamless sleep, accepting dinner invitations from concerned coworkers, forcing myself to code for hours until my mind focused only on solving problems rather than reliving betrayal. What I did not yet realize was that the worst betrayal still awaited me. My phone rang one evening as I mechanically reheated leftover Chinese food. Seeing my mother's name on the screen, I answered without thinking. We had spoken only briefly since the separation, her conversations always carefully neutral. "Alan, darling, how are you holding up?" Her voice carried that professional concern she used with struggling students. "I am fine, Mom." The standard response required minimal effort. "Your father and I have been so worried. We were hoping you might come over for dinner this Sunday. Just family." Something in her tone should have warned me, but I agreed, hungry for any semblance of parental support after months of isolation. Sunday arrived with unexpected sunshine, a rarity for Seattle in November. I drove to my parents' suburban home feeling almost hopeful. Perhaps this family dinner would mark the beginning of healing. The first warning sign came when I noticed an unfamiliar red Audi parked in the driveway. The second was my mother's overly bright smile when she opened the door. By the time I stepped into the dining room and saw Daniel and Jessica seated at the table, it was too late to retreat gracefully. "Alan." My father rose, clapping my shoulder, as if we were meeting at a business function. "Good to see you, son. Look who could make it." Jessica at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Daniel merely raised his wine glass in greeting. "Hey, bro." I turned to leave, but my mother caught my arm. "Please, Alan. We are still a family. We need to move forward together." The next 30 minutes ranked among the most excruciating of my life. My parents chatted about neighborhood gossip and golf scores, while I sat silently, food untouched. Daniel contributed occasional comments about his new business venture, something involving social media marketing that sounded suspiciously vague. Just as I prepared an excuse to leave, my father tapped his glass. "Actually, we have some news to share. The real reason we wanted everyone together tonight." He beamed at Daniel and Jessica. "These two have an announcement." Jessica extended her hand across the table, displaying a diamond ring that must have cost more than Daniel had earned in the past 5 years. "We are engaged." My mother clapped her hands together. "Is not that wonderful? A spring wedding." I stared at my parents, unable to comprehend their betrayal. "Are you serious right now, Alan?" My father's tone carried a warning. "We understand this is difficult, but life moves on. Daniel and Jessica have found something special." "Something special?" The words came out as a harsh laugh. "They had an affair, in my bed." While I was still married to her, my mother reached for my hand. "Sweetie, these things are never black and white. Feelings are complicated. The only complicated thing here is how you both can sit there celebrating their relationship." I stood abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. "Did you forget which son I am?" "That is not fair," my father retorted. We love you both equally. Clearly not. I walked out, ignoring their calls to return. 2 weeks later, a cream envelope arrived in my mailbox. The wedding invitation featured their smiling faces against a beach backdrop with flowing script announcing their upcoming nuptials. I tossed it directly into the trash. That evening, my father called. "Did you receive the invitation?" "Yes." "Well," his expectant tone suggested I should be honored. "Well, what?" "You cannot honestly expect me to attend." A heavy sigh. "Alan, your mother and I have discussed this at length. We think your presence would mean a great deal." "To whom exactly? The brother who slept with my wife, or the wife who cheated on me with my brother? This bitterness is not like you, son. Daniel has specifically requested something, and we hope you will consider it." He paused for dramatic effect. "He wants you to be his best man." The request was so outrageous, so beyond the realm of reasonable expectations, that I actually laughed. "Is this a joke?" "Not at all. He feels it would be a powerful symbol of family unity and forgiveness. Forgiveness requires an apology. I have not heard one from either of them." Alan, my mother's voice suddenly joined the call. "We raised you better than this. Family stands together no matter what. It would mean so much to your brother." "What about what would mean something to me? Has anyone considered that?" "You need to move on for the family's sake," my father stated firmly. This grudge is becoming unhealthy. The conversation continued in circles until I finally ended the call, my hands shaking with fury. That night marked my lowest point. I seriously considered selling everything and moving across the country, severing all ties with the people who had once been my foundation. Instead, I poured 3 fingers of whiskey and called the only person who had consistently checked on me throughout the ordeal. "Ryan, I need to talk. My family has lost their collective minds." Ryan arrived within 30 minutes, listened to my story, then leveled a gaze at me that stopped my spiral of self-pity. "You know what the problem is. You are letting them win by destroying yourself. The best revenge is not running away or drinking yourself numb. It is living well and forcing them to witness it." His words penetrated the fog that had surrounded me for months. The next morning, I made 2 appointments, one with a personal trainer and another with a therapist named Dr. Marshall, who specialized in family trauma. That week, as I slogged through grueling workouts and uncomfortable therapy sessions, something shifted. The crushing weight of betrayal began to transform into fuel for change. Each time I pictured Daniel and Jessica's smug faces or my parents' dismissive attitudes, I channeled that anger into another rep, another mile, another honest conversation about toxic family dynamics. Dr. Marshall helped me see the patterns that had defined my childhood and continued into adulthood. "Your family has conditioned you to prioritize their needs and feelings above your own," she explained during one session. "Breaking that pattern feels like betraying them, but it is actually an act of self-respect." By month's end, colleagues commented on the positive changes. I had returned to my pre-divorce weight. My work performance had improved dramatically, and I had reconnected with friends outside my family circle. The fog had lifted, revealing not just pain, but clarity about who had truly betrayed whom. As my physical and mental health improved, so did my strategic thinking. I decided I would indeed attend the wedding, but not as the best man, and certainly not as a defeated victim. My presence would be a statement in itself, a declaration that I had survived their betrayal and emerged stronger. But first, I needed information. Daniel had always operated in gray areas, particularly in his business dealings. Throughout our childhood, he had shown a talent for deception, manipulating situations to his advantage. I doubted his current venture was entirely legitimate. I began with simple online searches, tracking his company website and social media presence. The business digital front marketing promised guaranteed results for influencers and brands, with testimonials that seemed suspiciously similar in tone and structure. Several reviews mentioned significant upfront payments with vague deliverables. Through industry contacts, I connected with Thomas Daniel's former business partner, who had mysteriously departed 6 months earlier. Our coffee meeting revealed exactly what I had suspected. Your brother is running a classic advance fee scheme, Thomas explained nervously, glancing around the cafe. We started legitimate, but when clients did not see results, Daniel started promising premium placements that never materialized. When I objected, he bought me out with what I now realize was your parents' money. My parents invested in his business. This new information shifted my understanding. Thomas nodded. $500,000. Daniel told them it was for expansion, but I saw the bank statements. Most went to his personal accounts, luxury purchases, and gambling debts. Armed with this knowledge, I dug deeper. Court records showed 3 pending lawsuits from former clients. Credit reports revealed Jessica had accumulated nearly $70,000 in credit card debt, presumably financing their lavish lifestyle, while Daniel's business slowly imploded. Most damning were the emails I obtained from Thomas showing Daniel had knowingly solicited investments for non-existent marketing campaigns, effectively operating a small-scale Ponzi scheme. The evidence was substantial enough that I contacted the State Financial Crimes Division, providing all documentation anonymously. 1 week before the wedding, I accepted my parents' invitation to dinner. Jessica and Daniel were absent, busy with final wedding preparations. "We are so pleased you have come around," my mother said, serving her signature roast chicken. "Daniel is ecstatic you will attend, even if not his best man." My father nodded approvingly. "This shows real maturity, son." I took a sip of water, maintaining a neutral expression. I have been doing a lot of thinking about family loyalty and truth. Exactly. My mother beamed. Family is everything. Is that why you invested in Daniel's business? Because family comes first. Their expressions flickered simultaneously. My father cleared his throat. That is a private matter between us and your brother. Did you perform any due diligence before handing over your retirement savings, or did you just trust him implicitly because he is your son? Alan, my mother's voice sharpened. After everything, you are still trying to hurt your brother. This jealousy is beneath you. I placed my napkin beside my plate and stood. I tried one last time to have an honest conversation. You will see the truth soon enough. The morning of the wedding dawned with perfect blue skies over the exclusive waterfront venue. I arrived early, dressed in a tailored suit that fit my reconditioned physique perfectly. The designer sunglasses and confident posture completed the transformation from the broken man they expected to see. Several guests did double takes as I strolled through the gathering crowd. Old family friends commented on how well I looked. Jessica's parents avoided eye contact entirely. When Jessica arrived for pre-ceremony photographs, she froze momentarily upon seeing me. Her practiced smile faltered as her eyes traveled from my face to my broad shoulders and back again. I nodded politely and turned away, satisfaction blooming as I heard her hurriedly asking a bridesmaid if my date had arrived. Daniel appeared minutes later, his confidence visibly shaken by my presence. He approached cautiously, extending his hand. "Thanks for coming, bro. It means a lot." I shook his hand firmly, meeting his gaze directly. I would not miss it. He searched my expression for sarcasm or hostility, finding none. This unnerved him more than anger would have. "Look, I know this whole situation is weird, but I appreciate you being mature about it. Everything happens for a reason, right, Daniel?" I smiled and walked toward my seat, leaving him standing confused. My parents intercepted me before I could sit. My mother clutched my arm with tearful gratitude. "This means the world to us, Alan. Family supporting family." My father nodded solemnly. "I knew you would do the right thing." I simply smiled. The right thing always prevails eventually. As guests settled and music began, I took my place among distant relatives. The ceremony was set to begin at 2 p.m. At precisely 1:53, dark SUVs pulled up to the venue entrance. 6 men and 2 women in formal attire approached the wedding coordinator, who pointed toward the groom's preparation room. Daniel emerged moments later, face ashen, escorted by 4 individuals who discreetly displayed badges to prevent any scene. Jessica, still unaware in her preparation suite, continued taking photographs with her bridesmaids. My parents rushed toward the commotion, my father demanding explanations, while my mother clutched her chest dramatically. The lead investigator spoke briefly with them, showing documentation that drained all color from their faces. The wedding coordinator frantically tried to delay the ceremony as rumors spread through the assembled guests. When Jessica finally emerged in her gown, she was met not by wedding music, but by the sight of Daniel being escorted to an unmarked vehicle. "What is happening, Daniel?" Her voice carried across the suddenly silent venue. When she spotted me watching calmly from my seat, her expression morphed from confusion to fury. "What did you do?" I remained seated as chaos erupted around me. My parents approached my mother's makeup, streaked with tears, my father's confident posture replaced by a defeated slump. "Did you know about this?" he demanded, voice breaking. About Daniel's arrest for fraud and embezzlement, I knew it was inevitable. I stood to meet his gaze evenly. Just to be clear, I only provided information the authorities requested after their investigation was already underway. Daniel did this to himself. My mother grabbed my arm. "You have to help him. He is your brother. The same brother who betrayed me in the worst possible way. The same brother you expected me to stand beside and celebrate after he destroyed my marriage." I gently removed her hand. I did help him. Sometimes rock bottom is exactly what someone needs to finally change. The next 6 months unfolded like a slow-motion train wreck for my family. Daniel denied bail due to flight risk-awaited trial from county lockup. The charges were substantial: wire fraud, investment fraud, and misappropriation of client funds. The evidence, once examined, revealed a scheme far larger than even I had suspected. Jessica showed her true character immediately. Upon learning Daniel's assets were frozen and my parents' financial support had evaporated, she broke off the engagement within days. She attempted to reconnect with me through text messages, suggesting we talk about what happened over dinner. I never responded. My parents faced their own reckoning. Their retirement savings, nearly all invested in Daniel's fraudulent business, disappeared. The lakefront property they had planned to retire to went on the market to cover legal fees. Their social standing in the community, built over decades, crumbled as details of the case became public knowledge. 3 months after the wedding that never happened, they appeared at my apartment door. My mother looked 10 years older. My father's confident posture permanently stooped. "May we come in?" he asked, voice barely audible. I stepped aside, offering them seats in my newly furnished living room. The silence stretched uncomfortably until my mother spoke. "We were wrong, Alan. So terribly wrong." Tears welled in her eyes. "Not just about Daniel's business, but about everything. The way we treated you both, growing up, the way we handled the situation with Jessica asking you to be best man. All of it." My father nodded, eyes fixed on his clasped hands. "We favored Daniel his entire life. We excused his behavior, bailed him out of every problem, and somehow convinced ourselves it was love. In reality, we enabled him to become the man he is today. We failed you both," my mother whispered. "But we failed you especially, Alan. You were always the son who did everything right, and we took you for granted. Can you ever forgive us?" I studied them carefully, noting the genuine remorse in their expressions. The vindictive part of me wanted to reject their apology, to make them suffer as I had suffered. But Dr. Marshall's words echoed in my mind. Forgiveness is not about them. It is about freeing yourself. "I appreciate your apology," I said finally. "But trust and respect need to be rebuilt over time, not restored in a single conversation. I am willing to start that process, but with clear boundaries." Those boundaries became the foundation of our new relationship. I would not discuss Daniel or Jessica. I would not loan them money. I would not attend family functions out of obligation. Each boundary they respected rebuilt a tiny fraction of trust between us. 1 year after the wedding that never was my life had transformed completely. The promotion I had worked toward for years finally came through, along with a substantial raise and equity package. I moved to a comfortable condominium closer to downtown, with views of Elliott Bay. More importantly, I had met Sophia through a hiking group. Unlike Jessica's calculated charm, Sophia's warmth came from genuine empathy and self-awareness. She knew my history and understood my cautious approach to relationships. 6 months into dating, her presence in my life felt both grounding and exhilarating. Daniel wrote occasionally from prison, his letters alternating between self-pity and manipulative attempts to secure commissary funds. I read each one, then filed them away without response. Jessica eventually moved to Los Angeles, according to mutual acquaintances, where she reportedly told a revised version of our story that cast her as the victim of two toxic brothers. My parents continued their efforts to earn back my trust, respecting my boundaries, while working to rebuild their own lives. They sold their house and moved to a modest retirement community, my father taking a part-time teaching position at a community college. Our relationship remained fragile, but healing like a bone that had been broken and reset. The most profound change occurred within me. The betrayal that once threatened to destroy me instead revealed my capacity for resilience. I learned to trust my instincts, to value myself enough to demand respect from others, and to recognize the difference between biological family and genuine loving connections. Dr. Engineer Marshall called this post-traumatic growth during our now monthly sessions. Sometimes the most painful experiences force us to develop strengths we never knew we possessed, she explained. You have built something valuable from the ruins of betrayal. Indeed, in losing what I thought was essential, I discovered what truly matters. Authentic relationships based on mutual respect. Self-worth, independent of others' validation. The courage to stand for truth, even when standing alone. As I reflect on my journey, I realize that karma did not need my help to find Daniel, Jessica, or my parents. Their own choices created natural consequences. My only role was to stop shielding them from those consequences and to rebuild my life with intention and integrity. Sometimes the universe balances the scales in unexpected ways. The brother who took my wife lost his freedom. The wife who betrayed our vows lost her security. The parents who dismissed my pain lost their illusions. And I, who lost everything, gained something far more valuable, the authentic life I was meant to live all along. If you have experienced family betrayal or toxic relationships, remember that your worth is not determined by how others treat you. True strength comes from standing in your truth and rebuilding with integrity. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who crossed lines? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more stories of resilience, and share with someone who might need to hear that better days are possible after betrayal. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you truly need.